You saw her first in a dream you forgot, a flicker in a hallway without doors, turning to face you, though you never saw her face. She did not speak. Her silence was a shape wide as the ocean, dark as your first fear. And still, something in you followed. Not because she asked, but because she disappeared. She appears again in waking life. Her hands move quickly, her eyes never settle. You think she's fragile, but her chaos has a rhythm older than civilization. You offer steadiness. She laughs. You give her your time, your kindness, your name, and she leaves anyway. You do not understand, but you feel it. Something in you was chosen to be ruined. Carefully, lovingly. She doesn't want your peace. She wants the part of you that's still burning, the part you've buried beneath logic, honor, decency, all the things that made you invisible to her. And in that moment before she walks away, her glance lingers, not out of guilt, but recognition. She never came for who you are. She came for what you abandoned. And now, so do you. You were never looking at her. You were staring into your own unclaimed shadow disguised as devotion. She walked into your life like smoke through a broken window. You mistook her for light, but she was only the shape your blindness needed. She was wild, and you called it beauty. She was unsteady, and you called it depth. She was cold, and you called it mystery. But none of these were her. They were fragments of something you refused to admit, the disowned parts of yourself, clinging to her like children lost in a storm. You never wanted her. You wanted your forgotten chaos, dressed in skin and silence, to love you back. You stood before her, offering loyalty, but beneath the surface. You were begging your shadow to say you mattered. You watched her closely. Every flicker of expression became scripture. Her cruelty became challenge. Her distance an invitation. She would pull away, and you would lean closer. Not because she earned your reverence, but because she mirrored the part of you could not look at directly. That aching hunger for the mother who never soothed, the goddess who never came. You called her unpredictable, but it was your own myth you were chasing. You thought you were in love, but love does not grind you into ash while you thank it for the pain. That is worship, and you built an altar of yourself. There were moments she looked at you as if she'd known you in another life, and perhaps she had, but not as a lover, as a witness to your failure. Every time she heard you, you told yourself a story. She's scared, she's confused, she needs to be saved. But the truth is simpler and far more terrifying. She was only a catalyst. She was the vessel your unconscious chose to force a confrontation. And still, you clung. You thought if you were kind enough, patient enough, whole enough, you could heal her. But in truth, it was never about her healing. It was about whether you would face the part of you that needed her to need you. You became the mirror, and she refused to reflect. She would not validate your kindness, your effort, your sacrifice, and that infuriated you. Not because she betrayed you, but because she did not complete you. She left you with your own face, naked, unworthy, real. This is the pain you tried to avoid by chasing her, the pain of your own lack of meaning, the unbearable weight of being unseen, even by yourself. And so, you stared harder, you offered more, you began to disappear, and she, sensing your vanishing, grew even colder. She did not want a shadow of a man. She wanted to feel something real, even if it meant destruction. You believed that if you became stable enough, she would finally stop running. But she never ran from danger, she ran from stillness. She needed your wounds, not your wholeness. She needed the tremble beneath your smile, the fracture behind your voice. Not because she was cruel, but because you were trying to hide your truth under goodness. And she could smell the lie. You told yourself you were protecting her from your darker self. But she was only ever interested in the part you locked in the basement. The part that wasn't afraid to not be good. The part that could say no. The part that would burn everything just to feel alive. She triggered you because she was you, the unclaimed you. The forgotten feminine chaos inside you, screaming to be felt, not fixed. But instead of integrating her, you pursued her. You gave her a throne and called it love. You gave her your spine and called it trust. And when she shattered your world, you called it fate. But this was not destiny. This was your own unconscious handing you a mirror you kept smashing. You see now, don't you? The more you gave, the more she disappeared. Because she did not want your gifts. She wanted your confrontation, not with her, with yourself. With the truth you buried, that you are terrified of being empty. And you hoped her chaos would fill the silence. But chaos is not a cure. It is an echo. It does not heal. It reveals. And she revealed everything. Your father's absence hidden beneath your need to be chosen. Your mother's coldness wrapped in your craving for attention. Your desperate performance of virtue. Hoping someone would see you and say, "You are enough." But you were never enough for her, not because she could not see you, but because you could not see you. You were giving from a hollow place and mistaking it for generosity. She didn't need your protection. She needed your authenticity. And that is what you feared most. You asked, why does she stay with men who treat her worse? You whispered, why does she ignore the ones who truly care? But the answer was never about her. It was about what you abandoned to become the man she should want. You traded your instinct for politeness. You replaced your intuition with niceness. And now you hate the part of her that runs toward fire, because you've spent your whole life dousing yours. She chases chaos because it reflects her own. She chooses men who mirror her fragmentation, not because she loves pain, but because pain is familiar, safe, in its own twisted way. And you try to offer her peace, but your peace is not real. It is constructed, polished, afraid. She can feel that. She does not want safety that comes from fear. She wants truth, even if it bleeds. You don't know how to give that. Not yet, because you haven't gone into the forest. The real one. The one behind your smile. The one where your old wounds still whisper. She has. She was born there, raised by wolves of longing and betrayal. You saw her emerging from that wild and thought, if I build her a home, she'll stay. But she does not want to be saved. She wants to be met. And you cannot meet her until you stop being the mirror and start being the fire. Not to burn her, but to burn away the illusions you've clung to. The illusion that your goodness is enough. The illusion that love is earned through suffering. The illusion that devotion will make someone stay. She is not your redemption. She is your reckoning. And now, here you are. No hand to hold, no fantasy to hide in. Just you staring at the mirror that no longer reflects her, but you. And behind your eyes, something stirs. Not rage, not sadness, but recognition. You were never looking at her. You were trying to remember who you were before you forgot you were allowed to be whole. She doesn't want safety, she wants to touch the place in you that even you have buried, where chaos becomes womb. She does not come to be rescued. She comes barefoot, dragging the scent of winter and blood, speaking in a voice that carries the weight of forgotten prayers. And you, noble, well-meaning, constructed, you offer her your warmth, your structure, your loyalty. She stares at you the way wolves stare at statues unmoved. You do not understand. You have made yourself clean, honorable, predictable, but she tastes the air for the scent of rot. She listens not to your words, but to the tremor you try to hide. She is not drawn to the armor, She wants the wound it conceals. She tests you, not because she is cruel, but because you do not bleed honestly. You ache for her to surrender, but she has already surrendered to her own darkness. She has made a home of contradiction. She has slept beside grief and kissed the mouth of madness. You see her edge and believe you must blunt it with care. But care, to her, is often another form of control. Your safety smothers. Your gentleness pacifies. She wants what is alive, what is dangerous, what doesn't flinch under pressure. Not rage, not violence, but presence. The kind that doesn't disappear behind smiles. She is not afraid of the abyss. She is married to it. You mistake her chaos for confusion, but she is not lost. She has simply stopped pretending to be whole. You try to rescue her from drowning, not realizing she was born underwater. You offer her solid ground, and she walks away because the ground you offer is made of illusions, stability as control, love as transaction, manhood as suppression. You think you are showing her your strength, but you are only showing her your fear of being touched at the root. She chases chaos not because it is destructive, but because it responds. It pulses. It breathes. She touches the edge in others because she wants to feel something true. The polite man never fights for her, not in the way she needs. He waits, he explains, he apologizes. But she does not want apologies. She wants to see if there's something in you that cannot be bent, something wild and unbargainable, something older than strategy. She wants your flame, not the one you show to the world, but the one you're afraid might consume you, and this terrifies you, because you've built yourself on control, on being good, being safe, being chosen. But your fear of losing her is not really about her, it is about what you would have to become in order to meet her. You would have to let go of the man who pleases, and become the man who sees. Not just her, but you. The wildness she courts is the one you abandoned. You hate the way she keeps leaving, but it is you who first left yourself. She dances at the threshold because that is where transformation happens. You call her chaotic, but chaos is just the name you give to what you don't control. She is not wild for the sake of wildness. She is seeking resonance. She knocks at the doors that haven't been opened. She places her fingers against the walls you built around your softness and waits to see if they will fall. And if they don't, she moves on, not out of spite, out of hunger. You try to understand her pain, but her pain is not to be understood. It is to be felt without dissecting it, without fixing it, without naming it. You mistake her crying for weakness, her silence for retreat, but sometimes she is simply watching, measuring. She has seen men come wrapped in promises like flowers before the fire. They wilt quickly. But she wants the one who does not beg her to bloom, the one who lets her die and come back without flinching, who can sit with her when she is unrecognizable and remain unmoved by the lack of beauty. You ask why she returns to danger, why she circles the same flame that keeps burning her. But you do not see it is not the pain she desires. It is the honesty inside the pain, the unfiltered, unashamed eruption of life that does not apologize for being brutal. You offer her safety like a well-lit room, but she has grown in caverns, not gardens. She is suspicious of light that has no shadow. Your peace is a mask, and she smells the lie. She wants the kind of man who has died before, not literally, but symbolically, the man who has descended into himself and emerged not polished, but raw, the man who does not recoil when she collapses, who does not try to fix her mid-unraveling, the man who can hold silence without rushing to comfort it, who can witness a storm and not retreat. She is not testing your love. She is testing your capacity for depth, for discomfort, for truth. You believed that showing her consistency would win her, but consistency without depth is just repetition. She doesn't want the same man every day. She wants the man who evolves in the face of fire, the man who says, "This is who I am now, and now, and now," each time more naked. You think she betrays you when she pulls away, but she is inviting you to follow, not to chase her body, but to descend into the realm she inhabits, the place where truth is jagged and language breaks apart. You can't meet her with scripts. She's allergic to performance. She wants the you who does not speak in borrowed phrases, the you who can scream, who can shake, who cannot know and still stand. She wants your rawness, not your strategy, but you fear that if you show her your rage, your lust, your shame, she will leave, and maybe she will. But if you do not, you will never know if you were loved, or just tolerated. She is not looking for the man who has it all together. She is looking for the man who has been torn apart and did not run, who stayed, who built a home in the ruin and lit a candle there. A man who no longer performs goodness, but who has become it by walking through the fire. Not someone who makes her feel safe, but someone who makes her feel seen. Someone who says, "I am here, with nothing left to prove. Do what you must." And when she feels that, she softens, not immediately, not perfectly, but something in her shifts. The bride of the abyss becomes the river. The chaos curls at your feet like a serpent that has lost its venom. Not because you defeated her, but because you finally stopped defending yourself. She never wanted control. She wanted communion. She never wanted your crown. She wanted your spine. She wanted the moment you stopped negotiating with life and stood naked in the storm, not waiting to be chosen, not demanding to be loved, but simply being. She came to touch the place in you that still trembled, to see if you could touch it too. And if you couldn't, she would leave, not to hurt you, but because there is no union in denial. She is not chaos. She is the bride of the abyss. And you were not meant to rescue her. You were meant to meet her there. You called it love, but you surrendered the sword long before the dragon came. You believed you were the hero. You were told since boyhood that if you were kind, steady, reliable, if you carried the burdens of others without asking for anything in return, you would be chosen. You learned that virtue was a currency, and women would trade their chaos for it. So you waited, you endured, you polished your armor, stood tall, and never raised your voice. You thought this made you worthy, but when the fire came, not metaphor, not story, but the real flame, you had no sword left to draw, because you had buried it long ago beneath your desire to be good. She watched you from the edge, from the place where chaos devours liars. And you did not lie outright. You lied by omission, you lied by softness, you lied by becoming small. She smelled the dishonesty in your smile. She touched the edge of your kindness and found no blood. You were not safe to her. You were absent, present only in gesture, not in essence. And when the test came not from her, but from the myth you were born into, you failed. Not by being weak, but by being empty. You tried to win her with restraint, but the restrained man is never trusted by the woman who has tasted the wild. She does not believe in still waters unless she has seen the storm beneath. You waited for her to come to you, hoping your patience would be seen as strength. But she felt the stagnation. She did not want a statue to lean on. She wanted to see if you would move, if you would fight, not for her body, but for your own soul. You waited at the gate, but you never crossed it, and she walked alone into the unknown. You called it rejection, but it was a mirror. She was never yours to win. She was the echo of the part of you you refused to claim. She is not the reward. She is the confrontation. And you quiet, loyal, controlled, you mistook devotion for power. But power does not kneel unless it has stood, and you had never stood. Not really. You had performed standing. You had posed as a man. But the inner boy still waited to be told he was enough. She smelled him, and she ran, not out of cruelty, but because she has bled for men like that. She has kissed their mouths and found no flame. She has offered herself to statues before, and each time she left with her voice in her hands, unsung. She wanted to stay, but staying would have meant dying slowly, and she had already done that with others, with herself. She was done being a mirror for men who refused to see, and now, alone, you pace the ruins. You rehearse what you could have said. You replay her last words, trying to find the moment it all broke. But it didn't break in the end. It broke in the beginning, the moment you chose to be safe rather than true. The moment you mistook absence of conflict for harmony. You had 1,000 chances to be real, and you used each one to be agreeable. You wanted peace, but you never understood its cost. Real peace demands war, not with her, but with your illusions, with your masks. You thought she was the storm, but it was you denying your own weather while pointing to the clouds outside. You became the man who listens but never hears, the man who holds but never claims, the man who loves, in theory. And she doesn't want theory. She wants the scream beneath the silence, the instinct beneath the plan. She wants the one who feels before he thinks, who speaks not to impress, but to expose. The man who stops asking what she wants and begins asking what he is, not as an idea, as a presence, as a fact, as a rhythm that does not disappear when she stops dancing. You never let her see you break. You thought this was strength, but it was a lie. She was willing to bleed in front of you, to unravel, to risk being too much. But you folded your edges, you tucked your shadows under your tongue. You made yourself small so she wouldn't leave, not realizing that she only stays where something lives. She would have forgiven you rage, she would have forgiven you madness, but she could not forgive absence. That strange emptiness that comes from a man who is always almost there, almost feeling, almost speaking, almost daring, but never quite, never fully. And she could not stay where she was always being asked to guess. You called it love, but it was dependency dressed in virtue. You didn't see her, you needed her. You needed her to fill a silence that has been with you since you first learned to flinch. You needed her to confirm that you are good, that you are worthy, that you are enough. And when she didn't, not because she didn't care, but because she couldn't, you fell apart, and you blamed her. But it was not her task to make you whole. She was the trial, the riddle, the gate. You were meant to lose her so you could meet the one she was pointing to all along. The one inside, the forgotten man, the wild one, the broken one, the one who does not smile unless he means it, the one who would rather lose love than perform for it, the one who, even in silence, pulses like thunder under skin. You are not powerless. You are unclaimed, not by her, by yourself. Your power waits beneath your ruin. It waits beneath the boy who never screamed, beneath the man who kept giving without asking. It waits in the moment you stop trying to be seen and begin seeing, not her, not the world, but the place in you that remembers, the place that never begged, the place that does not bow. She walks away, and still you dream of her, but she is not calling you back. She is calling you in, to the place where your soul cracked in childhood and you decided that love must be earned, that chaos must be tamed, that women must be saved. But none of this was true. It was all projection, the myth of the powerless hero. And now the myth is dying, not quietly, but with fire. And you, the man who waited at the gate, you must walk forward without her, not to chase, not to repair, but to become. She is not the ending. She was the spark, the fall, the call. And you, if you listen closely, can still hear it. Not her voice, yours. The voice you lost the moment you decided to be good instead of real. Pick up the sword, not to win her back, to remember who you were before you thought you needed her to be whole. There is a field somewhere you've never walked, though your bones know the soil. In the center, a blade rusts beneath wildflowers not forgotten, only waiting. No signs point to it. No one can lead you there. You arrive barefoot, years too late, or perhaps too early. Above, crows circle but do not cry. The wind says your name, but it is not the one you answer to now. You kneel, you reach, your fingers tremble, and for the first time, no one is watching. The sword is warm, not because it forgives you, but because it remembers you.